wanted the information. They wanted whatever was necessary for them to rule us as a people and ultimately the planet. So when they came into our lands, they met knowledge. They met wisdom, they met understanding, right? And what they began to do is go into these places of learning and interpret it for themselves. So they would interpret solar biology, or what some may call astronomy today, into what we call lunar astrology. They took the information on the circumference of the planet and gave themselves credit for it. They found whatever information was necessary for us to rule ourselves, and they stamped their name on it. So much so that they referred to it as the Library of Alexandria, whereby they give Ptolemy credit for inviting scholars from all over the world to come and study. This is their story, this is what they say. But what they were really doing is they were creating history. And one of the most important texts that came out of that period is a book called the Septuagint. Okay? In this Septuagint, we'll find evidence of them putting this Septuagint together in the book of Luke chapter 10. Alright? How many disciples by number did Jesus have?
12.
12, right? Okay. Luke chapter 10. We start at verse 1. This is the King James Version. It says, "After these things the Lord appointed other 70 also, and sent them 2 and 2 before his face into every city and place whither he himself would come." Who are these 70 is being sent out? I thought 12 were being sent out. Right? So there's either a discrepancy or the story isn't fully being told, or both. Right? Some will say 72 because they'll say 6 times the 12 tribes. But this book, the Septuagint, they will give you the Roman numeral LXX, meaning 70. It was given the name Septuagint by St. Augustine of Hippo. They say that this Septuagint is the writing of the New Testament, or the Old Testament, from Hebrew to Greek. So right there is an alarm, because you didn't go to Jerusalem to find a Hebrew Old Testament. You went to Alexandria. So what was this Old Testament doing in Alexandria? I thought Jerusalem, as they say, was the holy city. I thought Vatican City was the holy city. But no, you came into Africa to find what you said was a Hebrew Old Testament, which we know was really the Tuareg. The Tuareg, which becomes the Tanakh or the Torah, which really is ultimately these 5 books beginning with the Barashit. You understand? That we have today as the Holy Catholic Church by way of our Basesh, our Hotep Top, okay, our Pope. And so what they've done in taking the original writings that came from the Shabbat stone, all right, a portion of these writings known as the Tuareg or the Torah, right? What they did was they, first and foremost, because this is right after Alexander, they focused on infiltrating or rewriting the story of Amun M. Hut. They'll say Amenemhat. And he, being the progenitor of the original 14 tribes. They'll say 12 to 14 tribes. They took this story and created Jacob. Okay? They created the story of Jacob and his 12 sons. Okay? But this Jacob was really Alexander. In the King James, in the Latin Vulgate, in the Greek Septuagint. Alexander has 12 generals.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you can read Jacob or Jacob, and you can say, yes, these were Africans, because if you go to Genesis 49, you'll see that there's an African burial taking place. But that African burial relates closely to the actual burial of Alexander the Great.
Mm-hmm.
Come on Sunday, we'll get into it. Right? And this is just a peek into how they were using the template of our stories and inserting themselves into it, because what they realized was they couldn't just remove names or replace names. Because, for example, in the original books of the Bible, when we say the Natsaru, or the guardian angelic host, that translates as the African angelic host. So a Greco-Roman can't just come into the scriptures and begin to change names without changing the entire story like they did, because the story is very specific. And it was written that way because we understood what we were up against. We were up against a group that wanted to, through identity theft, remove us and call us Gentiles. Even though the word Gentile is the word Ionian, mm-hmm. or Edomian, which translates to the Greeks and the Romans. Mm-hmm. This is in Genesis 10. So they purposely took the original books of the Bible and made sure that you think you're calling on your great ancestors, but you're really calling on them. You're really calling on adverse forces, which is why we live in an adverse condition today, which is why we have no power against perversion today. And listen to people try to defend their Christianity or their righteousness against Pride Parade or Pride Day. This is not a parade anymore, whatever it is. And they laugh at them. It's like, remember when like the vampire movies, if they held up a cross, people used to, the vampire used to like, smoke used to come and he used to like fall down, he used to break off running. Then as we got older, right, and you hold up a cross, the vampire, oh, that don't work no more. Take the cross out your hand, bite you, now you're a vampire. Right? That's the same thing that's happening to us. We don't have our true religious identity. We don't have our armor. We don't have our true protection, because we don't have our true scriptures. We don't have our true rights. We don't have our true laws. And they know this, and this is why they can now push perversion, including their religion, which is also a perversion. You understand? Which is why their religious leaders can rape little boys or kill, massacre people, and don't get touched. Mm-hmm. We watch this on the news, and then we go to church Sunday. So, I wanted to start there based on, we're talking about